Diary entry number 16. Maybe I could grow to love again. Hello, and welcome back to the Nervous System Diaries. Today's diary entry is Maybe I could grow to love again. There is so much to unravel in this relationship that I need to take it slow, even when it's difficult to talk about. This relationship did eventually include physical violence, but most of what happened was psychological. I'm not ready to quite put a name on all of it yet, but I will in the future entries. So let's begin. When I first brought number 2 into my life, I didn't feel some overwhelming sense of love. If I'm being honest, I thought he was something I could grow to love. Looking back, I wish I had listened to myself more. Deep down, I knew he wasn't what I needed. But I was so hard on myself back then. I worried about what people would think if I failed at another relationship. I blamed myself for everything. I know now that wasn't all my fault, but at the time I carried the weight of every failed relationship on my shoulders. Number 2 was settling into life with me. I didn't want to rush him to get a job because he had promised me something I desperately wanted to believe. He told me he would take care of me. He said I only had to work until he found employment. I was still working at the hotel, and because we didn't have internet at the house where I was staying, he started coming to work with me. He would sit in the lobby while I worked and supposedly filled out applications. Sometimes he told me he was walking to nearby businesses to apply for jobs. On my days off, I would drive him to the library so he could use the computers. This went on for months. Whenever I would ask how the job search was going, he became defensive, sometimes angry. His answer was always the same. It's because I'm a felon. Nobody wants to hire a felon. And because I wanted to believe him, I did. One day he accidentally knocked his cell phone into Puppy's water dish. Instead of being upset with himself, he became angry at Puppy. At Puppy. For having her water dish where it had always been. I immediately defended her. It wasn't her fault. It was a small moment, but looking back, it was one of the many signs that accountability wasn't something number 2 liked very much. Around the same time, something else started happening. I began sleepwalking. The only other time in my life I had ever done that was when I was a child during periods of extreme stress. I would wake up outside, sometimes holding Puppy's leash, sometimes standing in the yard, sometimes with no memory of how I got out there. One morning I asked number 2 about it. He casually told me he had seen me get up during the night. He said he tried talking to me, but I wouldn't respond. Then I'd leave, and eventually I would come back. Looking back now, I find that strange that he wasn't even concerned. I could have walked out into traffic. I could have gotten hurt. But he acted as if it was completely normal. A few weeks later, someone wonderful came back into my life. We'll call her Beauty. Beauty and I had worked together years prior. We had lost touch while I was trapped with number 1, but somehow we found each other again, and it felt like no time had passed. Beauty was exactly like her nickname. She loved God. She lit up every room she entered. She laughed easily, and she had a way of making life feel lighter. She loved going dancing and would drag both number 2 and I out with her. Sometimes her brother would even come. And for the first time in a long time, I was having fun. Real fun. The kind that reminds you that there's still life outside of survival. Beauty helped me remember pieces of myself I thought I'd lost forever. But the truth is, I wasn't healed, not even close. And when you haven't healed, even good things become complicated. One night after work, and a trip to the dance club, I came home exhausted. Remember, I was still living in the hoarder house. No matter how much I cleaned my room, cockroaches found their way inside. I'll never forget what happened that night. I woke up feeling something crawling on me. Before I could react, it fell into my ear. I screamed. The pain was immediate. I could hear it scratching. I could feel it moving. I was terrified. I was crying and clutching my ears while the roommates tried to help. They asked number 2 if they could drive me to the emergency room. He agreed. They gave him simple directions, and we got into my vehicle. I was panicking. Who wouldn't? There was a literal cockroach in my ear. But instead of comforting me, he yelled. He told me to shut up because he couldn't concentrate on the directions. He said he didn't need me making things harder. I cried even harder. Not because of the cockroach, but for the first time I felt like a burden. I was scared. I was in pain, and somehow I was being made to feel guilty for it. When we arrived at the hospital, everything changed. Suddenly he was kind, supportive, caring, as if nothing had happened. Later he apologized, but only after I asked why he had treated me that way. His explanation was simple. I was just stressed. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. I love you. I remember looking at him thinking, do you? Because I'm not there yet. I can't say it back. Not honestly. I didn't know if I could love again. I didn't know if I could even trust again. I convinced myself that maybe love was just something you learned. Maybe if I stayed long enough, I'd eventually feel it too. Maybe this is what healthy relationships look like, and I just didn't know any better. So I kept going. I ignored my doubts. I ignored my instincts. I ignored the discomfort. And little by little, I started pretending. Pretending we were happy. Pretending things were normal. Pretending this relationship was everything I wanted it to be. And eventually, I almost convinced myself it was true. Number 2 kept saying if we lived in a different area, I'd be able to walk to more places for job opportunities. I was determined to make this happen and begin looking for rentals that I could possibly afford on my hotel income in areas that had shops and warehouses. I had a hard time finding anything like that, and it seemed like number 2 had stopped even trying to look for a job. A few months later, while talking to Beauty, we came up with what felt like the perfect plan. We would just become roommates. It should have been simple. It should have worked. But there was one problem. Number 2. And even then, he was already manipulating me in ways I couldn't see. Come back next week as we dive deeper into that story. I'm a soft-spoken survivor, and this is the Nervous System Diaries.